How's it going, Andrew?
What up, what up, what up? What's going on, Matt?
Yeah, the usual. Did some planting in time for gardening.
Welcome to Time for Gardening with Matt and Andrew, your premier native gardening podcast. Matt, can you please tell us what plants you got?
So, out front, I added some showy goldenrods. I added some beard tongue and another Culver's root into the mix out there. Another aster, and then a couple other small ones that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head right now. And then out back around the patio, I did a little planting for mosquito mitigation. So like some lavender and some bee something or other. Can't remember what the name of that one was exactly. And then Olivia really liked this cobweb succulent, and it looks super cool. So I picked up one of those. I don't believe it's native, but oh well.
Can it survive outside?
Yeah. I got them from Shady Acres.
Oh, rad.
And it's called a cobweb succulent because it gets fibers that look like cobwebs all over the plant. It's super cool. And then I got another succulent that Zoe really liked that we planted out front. So
neat.
And I think without having planted it myself, I might have some lily of the valleys coming up in that front planter too, which are also native. So I will hang on to those if that is indeed what they are.
Depends if it's native lily of the valley, but even if it's not a bad version.
Well, no, I just need to wait for them to get bigger so I can get a proper identification on them.
Do they look like a bunch of little shoots?
Yeah, like two little
leafy
plants,
shoots.
And they're kind of coming straight up leafy shoots. Yeah,
could be.
That's what Seek told me so far, but they're still pretty small, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, my neighbor has a bunch of those, so if you send me a picture, I bet I can tell. I have a massive plant order coming in tomorrow, $163 in plants, but I got it on a discount for $130.
Nice. I dropped $200.
Well, I got 6 wild geranium, 5 dense blazing star, 6 cardinal flower, 5 great blue lobelia, 5 bergamot, and 5 little blue stem, along with a second order of 4 virgins bower, which is a climbing clematis.
Do you believe bergamot is one that I'm going to be shooting for next year to add out front there as I kind of start to build in my layers and stuff and hopefully let things kind of take over and fill in the gaps? But
yeah, heck yeah. Well, this episode of Time for Gardening with Matt and Andrew is brought to you by Teddy Wedgers, our unofficial sponsor. If you're ever in Madison and you're on State Street and you got a rumbly in your tummy, stop in at Teddy Wedgers, where the pasties are always hot. All right.
And don't be like our guest and spend too long somewhere else that you don't get to stop at Teddy Wedgers.
Don't get pizza on Rockford. Get something at Teddy Wedgers. So, anyways, the little hint there, I think we could hit the music and invite our guest on.
Sounds good.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
We have a very special guest coming to you guys today, all the way from our little brothers over in Illinois. We're bringing on Brother Brock from Raven Lodge 303 and one of the many, many hosts of the At Refreshment Podcast. What's going on, Brock?
Confirmed.
Hello.
Are we the little brothers or are they the little brothers? Which state is the little brother and the big brother?
I think we're a bigger state.
We are definitely, we're definitely the little brother.
Which one has more land?
I think we got more Masons, too.
Well, that we know for certain. State. We're Wisconsin.
Guarantee we're the... Well, I'm going to say
you guys
it's
go
close
up pretty north, but I don't know. Illinois is a very long state.
So Wisconsin is 65,000 square miles, and Illinois is 57,000 square miles. Now, if I'm doing the math right, and the way we run it in my family, is the tallest brother is the oldest. So my little brother has become the big brother because he got taller than me and my other brother. So the youngest has become the oldest in my family. So by those rules, Wisconsin is the big brother.
Oh, oh yeah, but they have like twice our population.
Was Illinois founded before Wisconsin? Sure. Sure.
Yes.
Sure. I think we were part of the Michigan Territory or something at some point or whatever it was.
I mean, Chicago's 1837. So, I mean, I think the state I think it's 1818, but I could be wrong. I don't even know. That could be Indiana. I don't even know. I can't remember.
Wisconsin was founded 1848.
Illinois is 1818. 30 years. They got 30 years on us.
Man!
All right, so we're here with our older brothers from Illinois. So, Brock, I think, our listeners may be familiar if they listen to the Conference of Grandmasters, one of the many episodes that you popped on there quick, but we want to get you on for a full episode. So to remind our viewers, how'd you get into this mess? What got you into Masonry and what keeps you here?
Got in for the mystery, and then I'd say like the fellowship and brotherhood, and still the mystery keeps me here. I had a boss when I was in college at an internship, and he kind of started teaching me about symbolism and gave me a book of symbolism from I think Jung, and it was like the symbol of man or something like that. And I just remember being like, wow, this is crazy. And then I discovered like Manly P. Hall and a couple other people, in that vein or that current or whatever. And then that kind of just took me down a rabbit hole. And then I seen all this stuff on Freemasonry. And then, it was kind of something I wanted to do, but I didn't really know any Masons. And my wife's great grandfather, he was a Mason at the time, and he was pretty old and retired in Florida. So way at the very end of his life, when he moved back home so his family could kind of take care of him, I used to talk to him a little bit about Masonry when we'd go out to eat, or I'd see him here and there, but I just asked him like the basic conspiracy theory stuff. I was so ignorant on it at first, I had no idea. But that started an interest, man. And then I just started collecting books and reading stuff. And then probably like, I don't know, 8 years later or something like that, I met when I was working in the music industry, I met a kid from Raven Lodge, and he played music, and he's like, oh man, me and him kind of clicked, and he came over to my house to hang out, drink some beers, and he's seen my library, and he's like, man, are you a Mason? And I was just, no. And then he told me that he was a Mason. And then I'm like, oh, shit. So he introduced me to his mentor. And yeah, that was that, man. I went to that first dinner, dude. And that got me hooked. But I also had a little bit of a setback, when I went. I think one time I looked at the lodge and it was just not my vibe, when I looked at it. But then once there's that elusive story, I looked in the window, I just seen like a bunch of guys eating out of the crock pot, and I just turned around and left. I'm like, dude, there's nobody here I can relate with. This is not going to be something I'm going to be interested in. Once I got entered. Oh yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah, sorry.
I've always had a question about the crock pot thing. What do you got against crock pots, Brock? What do you got against them, man?
I mean, dude, now I'm totally into a good chili cook-off or a good potluck, man. I have no problem against the crock pot, but that first look, dude, when I looked through the window of that lodge, dude, and I seen that, I just thought, at the time, man, I was probably 28, something like that, and I was like going to concerts all weekend and partying all the time and doing a bunch of stuff where I was just like, dude, there's no way I can do this. But once I met Dennis, he was like my first mentor from Raven. And it was even before like me and Wes became good friends. He was an anthropologist, and dude, he just knew so much about just mankind in general, religion.
I would like Dennis.
Yeah, dude. And it was just like, and I also learned about his 3 divorces and what not to do. I learned all these life lessons, traveling around, and he couldn't drive, so he was like a 40-some member a year of the Scottish Rite. So we'd go to the Valley, and just the stories, dude, that kind of brotherhood, and then you think like, man, these guys I thought I would never be able to relate to because I'm so much younger than them. I ended up having common interests with a lot of random old dudes I never thought of. We're reading the same books and talking about the same philosophies and ideas and ideals. Yeah, it's really cool.
Isn't that wild? I can't believe how many old people I'm friends with.
Yeah,
Matt, for one. Well, and they're fun. And they're fun.
Well, like you always say, man, it's nice to talk to somebody about like life insurance policies, or like, am I getting ripped off on this new roof I'm going to do? Or like, we have so many different, or like one of the best examples is during COVID. I work in the printing industry now, and I kind of always have, but I got laid off during COVID, because nobody was doing anything. And one of my buddies, he has his own plumbing business, all that, they were deemed essential. So I just hit him up. I'm like, hey man, can I come work with you guys or like do something? I don't want to just sit around my house. I don't have anything to do. And he's like, yeah, I can put you to work. And boom, just like that, like I was working again, and it was just a simple call to a brother who was able to help me out, and at the time my wife was pregnant with our first child. So it was like, it's fun to be unemployed, but I don't know when we're going to go back to work or what's happening. So I kind of need to be like doing something productive here that's going to be like putting me in a better situation. And then, once my work opened back up, I went right back to work again. And now, if my water heater breaks, I'm not scared to completely replace it myself,
You picked up a skill along the way too, which is pretty sweet. I've always wished that I could have like, okay, there's a weird thing that goes through my head, and I don't know if it's just an Andrew thought that I was like, God, I wish I could quit my job and just become like a pizza maker for like 6 months and get really good at making pizza and then quit that and go to a different job that's like, oh, I should just become, like a plumber for a year so I can learn the basics on how to do stuff around the house and then quit that. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to go work at Teddy Wedger's and learn how to make pasties. And then boom, just quit that. That's my dream. It's like an ADHD person job. It'd be the best.
Yeah, well, there's something about like authentic Mexican food that like you just can't make it for some reason at home. And, I'm like, man, if only I knew the secrets to the Mexican restaurant.
Only the abuelitas can give that to you. You got to find a good abuelita to teach you.
Dude, you got to have like the certain sauce that your meat marinade, you got to have everything right, dude. Otherwise, it just tastes like Taco Bell,
Dude, that's a crazy point, Brock, because I've tried really hard to make like super authentic Mexican food, and it's never the same. Like you really have to do the amount of work that goes into really good Mexican food, even street tacos, the amount of work that's going on behind the scenes on getting everything right it's not simple. Like it takes a lot of skill. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, man. It's very hard, dude. And all the different kind of breads, dude. When I very first moved to the Chicagoland area, I moved from like rural Iowa. So like I'd never had a gyro before. I'd never had a torta before. I'd never even been to a Chipotle, dude. I didn't even know what Chipotle was, dude. There was no Chipotles.
What's that, Chipotle?
Dude, for real. I'm like, wait, what? What's a burrito bowl? Like you just pile the burrito in the bowl without the what? That was like probably 2011 or something like that. I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Like this is a whole new world, man.
I mean, not that I've only been, I've tried to, I've came to Chicago multiple times, but it took me until, my wife graduated college for us both to be able to afford a place together. Trying to live here independently is about as possible.
Oh, I believe it. Now, here's a hard question then. So on our podcast, as you're aware, we have our unofficial sponsor, Teddy Wedger's. We love promoting that restaurant. If you could pick one restaurant in Chicago to be At Refreshment's unofficial sponsor, what would it be?
I only have to pick probably Manny's Ale House, where our trowel club was, where we recorded the first 4 or 5 years of At Refreshment, only for that reason. But we don't record there anymore, so I would totally have to say it's probably got to be some Chicago pizza place of some kind. Every little town pizza place has like a back room in the back that lets Masonic lodges meet there, So they usually have a decent selection of alcohol, and you can't go wrong with the pizza, man.
I was thinking you're gonna pick like one of those like Italian beef shops.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Patio's a pretty good, legit place. We do some high 12 meetings there every once in a while. It's like a local suburban barbecue place. In other words, that or like Mexican place, dude, by far. We have tons of just amazing Mexican food places.
You ever been? No, this is gonna be impossible. If the answer to this is yes, I'm gonna be mind blown because Chicago's too big and there's too many restaurants. Have you ever been to Rosie's Sidekick Sandwich Shop in Chicago?
No.
All right, put it on your list, dude. Put it on your your list. I almost swore. That's how good it is.
Jeez.
Dude, it is bomb.
Always the one swearing on the podcast.
It's like a bodega. You just walk in and it's like the side. It's like the standing room in there can fit like 4 people max, and then you just like walk in and get a sandwich. It's the best.
Well, yeah, exactly. Those type of places is where you can get like a good Italian sandwich, where you get like peppers and cheese. It's all rolled up. Actually, if you go to some of them, dude, they won't even put cheese on that, dude. Some of those delis don't even like putting cheese on sandwiches, which is crazy. But they got so many like olive toppings and all this other wild stuff and sauce, not like a sauce, but like an oil or a vinaigrette or something they put on there.
What blew my mind is they'd ask how juicy I wanted the Italian beef, and you could say low, medium, high. And if you did high, they just took the whole sandwich and dunked it in the au jus and put it in the wrap. And I was like, they just dunked my sandwich. They just soggied my sandwich, man. And like, dunk it. Like, that's how we do it. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, this is aggressive, but I'm kind of here for it.
They literally baptized that thing, dude. Yeah, for real.
I wondered why they did 3 dunks. It all makes sense. So, coming out of the Andrew's hungry hogdag hole, I have a hard question for you. This is going to be a head scratcher. So, you were once that petitioner walking in, you're seeing the lovely crock pot smorgasbord. If you saw a petitioner walk in tomorrow and ask you what Masonry was really about, what would you tell him?
Ooh, man. Man, dude, that's really hard to put it in like a one word. I'd like to say, dude, I don't even know. I was like going to say like contemplation probably, but
it doesn't have to be one word. You don't have to kick it into one word. Just imagine I'm a starry-eyed young guy being like, oh my God, Brock, what is this place? What is Masonry?
There's a lot of mystery, dude, that can be had there, dude. But there's tons of fellowship, and there's charity opportunities. It's such a hard thing to kind of answer because it's wild how wide open we are for so many different people. We are, not of any religious phase of, well, like specifically, we're open to everybody. We're open to everybody politically, so. It's like there's so many different people coming from all over. And something I also heard like on another Masonic podcast, think of like how many different ways people kind of come into Masonry, that develops your experience. If you came into like a 1-day class, or like your dad or your grandpa brings you in, or you're a new guy who's never had anybody in your family and you're, completely inquiring in it, like there's so many different ways, so somebody could be like, oh my gosh, this is all about fellowship. I've met some of the best brothers in my life here, people who've had my back in the worst times and in the best times. But, some people would be like, man, I came here and, I am giving back more than ever. I'm donating my time here. I'm helping out here, like some of the guys at the shrine, man, when I hear about the stories of how they, transport the children and drive the van and take them like to Indianapolis or wherever, Minnesota, or just even around the Chicagoland area, and it's all for free, volunteer, and it's just like, it's amazing the stories and the lives that they're doing. And it's a guy who walked in that door, and is like, well, what does this bring me? And then he finds this that connects to him. And then, now you came here with nothing to do. And now you have like a purpose and you're helping your community. And, through that journey and that self-reflection, Masonry shows you itself, I guess. I don't know. It's very hard to explain,
That was a good answer.
I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what I was saying, man. Yeah.
I blanked that for a second. What happened?
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get on a good rant, right? You just
you
just kind of keep going, and at the end you're like, wait, what did I actually say during that? I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's like performing a good piece of ritual too. When you know a piece really well, you can like black out, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I'm done with it. I don't even remember doing half of
it." Dude, Matt, I remember when you were telling me that you were like, "Oh yeah, when I did this whatever part, I completely just like was out of body and it just got done." And I was like, I didn't know who was talking anymore. It just kind of was so ingrained that it flew. And I was like, that's never going to happen to me. But then it definitely did. And I was like, oh, you're like, it's like that, you can get like car amnesia or whatever they call it, where like you've done the route so many times that your brain just turns off the record button. It's like, I don't need to save any more of this in my hard drive. Sometimes with ritual, I feel like the brain does that, where it's like, he's got it. And it just goes click, and just, I was like, I'm not going to record it. And you're like, oh, I finished? You're like, what? That one's fast.
Right. It's just like, he's going to send it. So I'm gonna actually follow that up and save us from going down another hogdag hole real quick here. And I got a fun one. I think it'll be a fun one. What have you learned about Freemasonry because you've been a host of a podcast that you didn't learn in Lodge?
Oh,
Well, that you have to travel beyond your state. I would probably say that, like, when we very first started, we're all, I mean, everybody else on the show, I believe, yes, everybody, oh, maybe, I guess not Mark, but everybody else but me and Mark, I think, are past masters on the show. So everybody has quite a bit of experience, and most of the guys have, like, went through the entire line, so they had quite a few journey, before, I just was like, oh, I'm in 1.5 years, hop on the show, where these dudes are like, they've been in a while. So, coming into the show, it was like, oh, shoot, dude. Luckily, I did a little reading and I listened to a lot of the other Masonic podcasts that exist at the time. So I kind of knew what we needed to be doing and talking about and kind of how to do stuff. So it was all good. But man, what did I learn the most? I don't even know, dude. It was cool to learn about all the different groups and bodies, at first, like the York College of Rights and like Rosicrucian College, or like, what's another one, like Royal Order of Scotland, or like even just the York Rite degrees in general. When I very first joined, I was pretty heavy into Scottish Rite, and maybe like the first 5 or 6 years, probably like 6 years or something like that, I hadn't joined the York Rite yet. So once I joined the York Rite, that was pretty cool. And then that kind of opened up another whole side of Masonry that I was kind of shocked that I put aside. But, that was one of the things from being on the show. It was like everybody else was in York Rite but me. So, I'd see them doing all this cool stuff or go to some York Rite event, and, I didn't get to go. So I always felt missed out. So I was like, oh, shoot, dude, I would love to do that. But getting this, watching my brothers have fun was very inspiring for me to want to join that group, It was cool to learn stuff like that. It was funny how people would think that, like, because you're on the show, like, that it's like, I don't even know, I don't even know how to explain. Like, people be like, oh man, I don't you guys get to do this, or like, aren't you guys making money off of the show? That's got to be great. And it's like, no, the show doesn't make any money. The show costs money, and it's putting Wes into debt. I don't even like looking at Wes's spreadsheet, dude. His spreadsheet of like what the podcast cost and like how much we have in cameras and microphones and new lights, and then another set of microphones. Yeah, it's far from profitable, but
Wes just likes to find new and interesting ways to spend money on the podcast. I'm fully convinced that Wes is always searching for a new and interesting way to be like, "Ooh, you know what I could upgrade to? Ooh, another gadget."
Yeah, we need a grok for the podcast. We need this. Yeah. We got it all. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, people definitely think that we make money too. And I was like, what? I was like, you're like, I wish. Teddy Wedgers doesn't pay us. Teddy Wedgers probably be pissed if they found out they were our sponsor.
Even if we did, it would probably like barely cover our expenses.
Yeah, exactly. You guys know what it's like. Shoot, man.
Oh, yeah.
Or you go somewhere and people hit you with hate. They're like, oh, he's from the internet. He's that, like, I'm not into that, so you're automatically judged, or they don't like somebody else on the show. So they're like, oh, that's like your best friend, isn't it? Like, I'm not friends with you because you're friends with these people, or that it's like, we're all our own people, man. But yeah, those are my brothers, dude. So yeah, I guess.
And they're your brothers
like
them,
too. Don't like you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We don't get that as much because Matt and I are just very lovable people, I think. At least, or they hide it from me.
For now.
Yeah.
But it does bring up, Brock, that good point that's always interesting is that since people get to hear you talk without you knowing for sure who they are or what they think about you or, how much they've listened to kind of what you say. Like, did they just hear a sound clip of you and go, now I'm judging the guy? Or did he listen to the whole episode and go, oh, I see what, Andrew was talking about or so. And so that it is strange that people can have preconceived first impressions of you that you've never made of, never even met, which is always interesting.
Yeah. Or like the weirdest is also like to meet a fan of the show or like a subscriber or something, and then you're like, you can be anywhere and like somebody will be like, hey, aren't you from that show? At Refreshment, and you're like, wait, what? Like, somebody watches that? Like, you actually recognize me? Like, holy smokes, this is crazy. And then you feel like, oh my God, dude, like, I want to know everything about them, like, how long have you been watching? What's your story? Where are you from? Because I'm like, how in the hell are you watching our show? And where did you hear about it? And do you like it? Like,
right. Right.
You're like, we just become best friends.
Yeah, for real.
There's always that weird moment too where somebody will come up to you and be like, "Hey, Brock, how's it going?" Blah blah blah. And for that brief instant till you realize that you actually have never met the person, they recognized you from the podcast, you feel like the asshole that forgot somebody's name or who they were, right? They're like, it's so cool I got to meet you. And you're like, oh, thank God.
hit it with the brother real quick, because I'm really bad with names anyway. So the worst is to be like, oh, nice to meet you. No, I met you like 6 months ago somewhere. And I'm like, oh man, yeah. My bad.
Right.
Nice to meet you. I've met you 14 times, Andrew, and you're like, oh, no.
Dude, there's been people I've literally 3 or 4 times that's happened to me before. So,
well, I did that to you at the conference of Grandmasters when you came to prank me. I was like, who the heck is this guy? And I was like, wait a second. It's Brock.
So funny. I just could not even resist it, man. I walked up and I was like, oh, hey, and you just didn't recognize. I'm like, oh, this is it right here. Podcast, I hear.
You didn't have your hat on. I'm used to seeing you with your hat on. Yeah. You were too done up.
Yeah. That's what Marty just seen when I seen him at our last podcast recording. He's like, man, dude, you shaved down your beard and you cut your hair short again, man.
Who is it? Who dis?
Yeah.
That always becomes the problem when you see people like out of their element, right? There's so many guys I'm used to seeing in a suit all the time at lodge and stuff. And the second you throw them in like jeans and a t-shirt, I'm like, is it? I don't know.
Dude, not only that, or like somebody's got full sleeve tattoos and you've only seen them in a suit and tie or a tux. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. What? You're like, you got you were in you're a service, you were in the military, or you're like this, you just hear all these crazy stories, dude, that you just don't even realize, That's one of the cool things about Matt. Like when we were talking about when I seen you in Madison, we were talking about like lodge dress and in attire and stuff like that. That's one of the things that's cool about wearing the suit is it doesn't matter where you're from or what your job is or anything. Like when everybody's wearing a suit, you're all the same basically, and it's not like a status symbol that you're above everybody else or some elitist thing. Like it really does help. And it brings like a sense of honor and respect to the degree. And, when you're doing the ritual work and everything, it just brings everything up that little extra notch, the presentation when the candidate walks in and everybody's in suits, when you're in your degree or they come to the light for the first time and everybody's in black suit, like when you just see that stuff, it sits in your mind a lot more memorable than
shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah, which is like, hey, if that's your lodge culture, do it to it, man. I mean, I'm not out here to hate on your lodge. If that's working for you, blessed be, And that's the great thing like about districts and having a bunch of lodges, you can have different types of lodges in a district and brothers can flock to the lodges that suit them best. And yeah, shoot.
What is that about suits where I feel like I saw something where they were talking about how suits by design are meant to be equalizers, that the way if a suit is tailored and it's set to actually fit you correctly, that it squares out the body so people who are overweight or underweight kind of are accentuated. It like straightens everybody out, and it makes like, and a suit can cost anywhere between $80 and thousands and thousands, but they're all still suits. Yeah. And that like, it is like a great equalizer. Like everyone looks to a certain level elevated in a suit. Unless it's super baggy. If it's super baggy, it does have negative puntos. So it's worth going to a tailor. Tailor's like $50, y'all. Maybe with inflation it's gone up, who knows? But they're usually a little Russian old lady, so I don't know if they know about inflation yet. So probably be okay.
Dude, or just hit like your local thrift shop and find an oversized jacket that's a nice jacket and take it to a tailor, dude, and they'll hook it up and you got a really nice custom suit coat for like nothing.
Yeah. And if you go to a thrift store and you find a good brand too, it could be like a $800, $900 suit and it just doesn't quite fit you. And you spend like $60, $70 at a tailor and you're like, cool, you got a $800 suit for like $90. Well done.
Yeah, dude. Think of all the people who buy, the most, like even myself, actually, when I very first joined Freemasonry, I only had like 2 suits. And one of them was like from a funeral. And one of them, I think, was maybe like a graduation of some kind, like, or something fancy I had to do from, I don't even know what that, that's like, welcome to the world. Here's your first suit kind of thing. I had one suit and then I had a funeral suit. And then it was like, well, Freemasonry, man, I gotta have like a Freemasonry suit, and then I need to get like a degree suit, and then hanging out with Wes, dude, this guy's got a white suit, a tan suit, a navy suit, a black suit, a tuxedo, he's got an overcoat and a hat and a cane to match all of that.
Dude,
Yes.
I was the same way, dude. I only had my high school suit. Like my high school suit was my only suit.
But it's that's one of the cool things, when you join Masonry, and then I've seen so many guys come in and like buy the tux and do all the thing, but when I see them traveling, or I see them at like a Scottish Rite event or at a really premier lodge, and they're wearing their full tux and everything, it's just cool to see, to be like, man, dude, this new guy came in and he was just like me. He only had one suit, and now here he is. Look at how confident he is, and he's in his tux, man, and he's like, he's just in his element with everybody else just doing it. And that's kind of one of those things where, like, when you're the 1 year to 2 year Mason, and you're trying to fit in, and you're not really in the officer line yet, and you're like still learning stuff, and you could be joining appendant bodies or not, but you might not be. And so, I like all the different stages of Mason, I think that's awesome.
Break down the stages. We need to hear the stages from Brock's mind.
I think you got to have like your first year, your guppy, your new guy, and then you get your, I'm a steward, deacon, you get in there, and then you get that confidence, and then, then you start really getting into the line, and then I think, once you start getting up in the line, you get a confidence in yourself. And then, once you start traveling around the district and helping out with other degrees and things like that, you start knowing more people, you feel more confident in Masonry. But that 5 to 7 year, that's when people start making the big commitment. Am I going to be master? Am I, where am I going to head after that? And then, once you get out of the master, you get to that like 8 year, 9 year Mason, 10 year, you can go through all the appendant bodies and you see a lot of those guys, going through the lines there. But, somebody like Marty or Wes, or even Mark, I think, went through most of the York-Rite body lines. It's like, dude, what happens when you go through all the lines and, you've done everything, then what do you do? What's left then? You've seen all the Scottish Rite degrees twice, you've seen all the York-Rite degrees a million times. You've performed all the York-Rite degrees in every, that's crazy to see those guys up there, man. And like, what keeps them coming back? And like, that's how, I don't even know, like, when do you make the choice of becoming leadership, or do you just naturally, like, Matt, like, how did you kind of get into being like a district rep? How did that even, was it just from traveling or from being past master of Lake?
So that's actually a very solid question. And if you want to actually go down my like journey into leadership, it's been,
yeah, please. I'm so interested.
It's been through multiple organizations, and for
I did hear you go through the hog stuff, and then running the stuff, and then how they kind of treated you, whatever, and Well,
I could even go back farther than that, though. I mean, leadership experiences for me started back in high school. I was president of the science club in like junior and senior year of high school. Was involved with various other groups and stuff like that. And then moving into college, I took supervisory roles at a few different jobs, and and then the hog stuff post college, and essentially being like the shift lead when I was doing hospital security and stuff. So I don't know, leadership's always something I've just kind of like gravitated to and been, I don't want to say interested in, but like it's just something that seems to find me at times. And I don't know why, but it's enjoyable, and I like doing it, and it's fun. And I think it does take a certain type of person to do it. And what I've taken away from Freemasonry the most when it comes to leadership is that it's forced me to grow, whereas before I was just kind of like, yeah, I can do this, and I didn't really study it or anything else. Now I read books on leadership, I listen to podcasts on leadership, I talk about leadership, I ask people for advice, right? And so I found that that's my area of self-improvement that I truly like enjoy learning more about, and it helps me develop other parts of my life at the same time.
Also why his beard's turning gray.
Yeah, it's also
but yeah, dude, you're very chill. Like, I've got to hang out with you a few times now, and you're a very chill dude, and you're like somber on your approach. You're always very level-headed on your approach, so like, yeah, I can see that. Where Andrew, you're probably a little more on the wild card side, dude. From what I know of this dude, man, I thought I knew this dude, and this dude's a wild card. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is I am very level-headed and very good at peacekeeping, and I'm good at calling people down. Where Matt can attest is where I am wild card is I forget things a lot. So I'm a little bit chaotic in my organization at times. It all gets done, but it helps when I have such lovely officers around me who can poke me once in a while. I'm like, Andrew, and I'll be like, shoot. And then, circle the wagons and get back to it. Like, I lost that one. I forgot. So I'm just forgetful. But I am not that wild. I'm a pretty level master of the lodge.
I'm not talking real wild. I'm just saying in general, though. The podcast, I was like, oh, man, dude, just because little do people know, I've listened to like every single episode. I was one of your guys' biggest fans, probably, for sure. As most people probably know from the show, I listen to like all the Masonic podcasts, and I'm like everybody's biggest fan. So
welcome to your biggest fanboy, Brock.
Comments, and I'm giving everybody thumbs up on their episodes. I'm like, yeah, I fanboy out on the whole entire Masonic podcast sphere. Well, dude, it's like kind of like old cable TV, like everybody's got their own little vibe and their own little station. So, there's a History Channel, there's a Comedy Central, we got everybody in the Masonic podcast world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what's fun with it too is like when you listen long enough, you get invested in these random brothers like stories and lives, and you're just like, and me too.
And to get to meet them, man, and like hang out is like, that's like surreal, dude. Even like meeting you guys at the Conference of Grand Masters and getting to hang out with you guys, and then making you guys go out to dinner with me and get drinks every night. I was like,
you didn't.
Shit.
We invited you to come to dinner and stuff. Right? You didn't make us do it.
I know, but I was like, shoot, dude, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then you guys were there. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome.
Brock, you have to understand one thing. Matt and I see each other like 2 to 3 times a week. We talk at length. At least once a week, if not more. So when we're at the Conference of Grand Masters and Matt and I are sitting at a table for 9 hours, we're really looking for a third wheel to break this up, because it's just us just all the time talking to each other about stuff. So we were happily like, oh, thank God Brock's here, so we can start talking to each other for 10 seconds.
Also, Brock, I kind of fanboy too, and I've listened to every episode of At Refreshment.
Oh, so, good. Thank you, man. I appreciate the listen, dude. Yeah, good. Yeah, dude, everybody on that show, man, works freaking hard, dude. I don't even know, dude. They work harder than I do on it, man. I know that for sure. So, yeah, Wes, dude, and Marty, dude, those guys. Marty's our ideas guy. Wes is our, we're going to get it done. And then everybody else is just like, contribute when you can and work hard. We got to work hard,
Absolutely.
I know we've talked about it before, but, I think that's one of the things that makes the Masonic podcasting sphere great, is that we all kind of fanboy about each other's stuff, and we all want to be a part of each other's adventure down this podcasting road, whether it be listening or being guests on each other's show or whatever. It's a very supportive community we've developed.
Oh yeah, dude, and like sharing guests and like, like the dude, there's just been so many, dude, I can't even. But like, I mean, dude, there's been so many awesome things that have come out of the podcast like that, dude. Yeah, it's total. Like, if you're listening now and you think that your lodge or your buddy, that you guys should be doing a podcast, you should. And, like, it doesn't matter if your state has 5 podcasts, dude, do one, because the way you guys are going to do it is going to be different than the way everybody else is doing it. And even if you try to do it the same, based where you are, your location, the people you're talking to, it's all going to be different. You know, you can talk to all the same people, interview all the same people in that state, but you know, they're all different people in those positions. So talk to your grandmaster, talk to your district reps and your deputies, and talk to your commanders and chiefs, you know, your grand high priest, you know, and they want to talk to you. They want to talk about Masonry. They want to spread the word, dude. And the best thing we can do is be a voice on the internet and try to battle against, you know, all the negativity that's being said about the craft constantly, and nobody's on there talking about all the good we're doing, you know.
And just showing that we're people. Like when you just have brothers who are just talking about what they're passionate about, there's no better way to get the actual lived experience of Masonry than hearing people just being like, this is what I've been doing. This is what I like. I sat outside the door and I stared in and I saw crock pots. You know what I mean? Like you're sharing glimpses into experience so that, like, you know, the more information that's out there about the actual experience of Masonry, the harder it is to create a web of BS about it, because it starts to not match well. And then, of course, you know, the conspiracy types will be like, well, that's because these guys live in a perpetual state of lies. And you're like, okay, but that'd be a lot of content and a lot of time that I'd have to not slip. And I think everybody knows that I would have slipped up by now if I had anything cool going on. I'd have been like, man, can't believe that alligator got out.
It's just because you're not a 99th degree Mason. So you don't know.
I'm not.
You're not high in the degrees yet.
Never am I.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing ever, dude. People will ask me about some conspiracy, and I'll try to answer it the best I can and be like, dude, I literally am a member of everything. I've seen not all, but I've seen most of all the degrees, dude. And the people that are running these groups, dude, are of good character, man. Like, they're respectable people. They aren't like somebody that I think is secretly in the mafia, you know, like they're kind people who are generous and, you know, will literally give you a ride home, or like, you know, give you the money out of their pocket, you know, to get you home. You know, it's just crazy. The things you hear people say on not even conspiracy shows, just regular podcasts and people's general perception. If it's not like, my grandpa was a Mason and he was a good guy, so Masonry is probably decent, it's usually like, oh my God, they're devil worshippers, you know? And it's like, there's nothing in Freemasonry but maybe the Eastern Star logo that might give you a perception of like, wait a second, what is this? You know, like, in other words, everything in Freemasonry, its basic logos, symbols, its signs, everything is like pretty by the book, you know? Nothing's that esoteric or that spooky, you know?
Right. Well, and what's always cracked me up, too, about the whole you're not high enough yet is, yeah, okay, because somebody's going to put 30 years into the fraternity, all this time and effort, thinking they're part of this good organization and everything else, and then suddenly they're going to get this next degree, and their eyes are going to be opened, and they're going to tell them there's actually this evil thing controlling the world, and just everybody's going to be okay with that.
Yeah, that everyone would be like, oh, I guess...
You fooled me for 30 years, but I'm going to go along with this now, right?
And, you know, the time commitment away from your family and friends and the money you spent traveling and doing all that. It's like, yeah, if I were that stupid that I've done this much and that, like, that would blow my mind that I would quit. Correct. Yeah. You know, it's like, I would not. And not only that, I'd probably be telling everybody like, yo, somebody better blow the whistle over here. This is weird.
Dude,
like,
dude, I remember when I was a newer Mason, maybe, God, Matt, this would have been at Packy's. So I would have been maybe 2 to 3 years in. And we were at Packy's, which was a local bar that closed a handful of years ago. And that was our local haunch for the lodge. But when I first started, we were going to Scotty's, so it would have been like 2 years in. And this lady gets really upset randomly. She starts freaking out. She's like yelling like, these guys are, you know, effing Masons, what the heck? Which is not a good idea in our local haunch, too, because, like, the owners, the bartenders are all friends of ours who have got to know us over years and years, and so they're not, like, super stoked on this lady. But so she goes out to have a cigarette, and I'm out there having one, and she starts just yelling at me because I heard her going off in the bar, and I was like, that's not good. And she comes out, and I was like, oh no, do I run? But then she was like, and I like very calmly was like, dude, none of that's like real. Like, what's your issue? And so she starts asking me questions. I'm answering them as sincerely as I can, as according to my obligation. And I'm talking about like, this is what we do and this other stuff. And then she hits me with you're not high enough yet. And then I said, well, hold on. We have a 32nd degree in there. Do you want me to bring him out and you can yell at him, I guess? And so then I just let her keep going, and I keep asking her more questions. Like, why do you think that? Like, what do you do? And slowly she just goes, well, you guys are all, run by the Jews. And then it goes deep, like into like really dark. And I'm like, oh, you're a Nazi. And I went, oh. And then I started just laughing. I was like, dude, I can't even talk to you. Like, you've gone so dark that I don't think this is one of these ones that I can pull you out of. Like, this is too many layers deep of hate in your heart. So, and you'll find that with a lot of conspiracy people who are anti-Masonry. If you pull the thread long enough, you'll be like, oh, it goes back to a cabal. Okay. Like,
yeah, dude. And I think the worst part about the conspiracy theory stuff, man, is like, no matter what you say or how transparent we ever can be, you can't win that battle. So like, I know that like, I don't know if it's an actual policy, but like, I know it's probably frowned upon to even, toil with conspiracy theories or to even say anything I think there is a thing like we're not supposed to be, arguing against them in Freemasonry just because that fight it doesn't look good. It's not worth it. And like you said, like there's deeper underlining issues here where like, if you really truthfully want to know what's going on in Freemasonry, you will join it and you will go and ask the questions and you will do it,
or you'll at least listen. Or you'll at least listen.
I know people who are bigger conspiracy theorists than I am, who are 33rd degree Masons, who have told me like, yes, dude, like I'm still looking for the treasures. I'm still looking for the secret grant, I'm looking for the bloodline, like I'm looking for, so like, I know that, I know people who have done it and they're amazing people, so like there is nothing to that, so it's just hilarious, dude, that like such a perception that the public has about like our secrecy, and then even with the conception or perception, of the 33rd degree, dude, is so hilarious because people think like, oh my God, it's something, it's an honorary title. It's not something like, oh my God, I've achieved this thing, I've done this thing, or I've done something that I've got. It's an honorary thing, and each valley gets so many based on membership, based on lodge valley achievement. There's so much, how many membership, there's like so many factors into going. It's not even like everybody, they just give out 33rd degree, it's a whole thing, so.
It's more of an award. It's more of an award than anything.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a prestigious honor. It's hard to say. If you're like an active, and you're like the active for the state, and you're going to Supreme Council meetings, and you're like doing whatever. Okay, I would say yes. That's a position of influence, but is that a position of influence that can take over a state like? Or a city like Chicago? No, like the mayor of Chicago probably has no idea who the state active is in the Scottish Rite. like it's not the government, and it's just not a thing where like conspiracy theorists are like, it's a cabal. It's not. I've seen it, But I don't know. Yeah, we're just ranting. Yeah, we got to cut this out of here.
It's a good time. Not a cabal. It's a good time.
Yeah, I'm just so bummed. When we just did that episode where we talked about Kurt Metzger, I was like, man, after we did it, I was like, man, it was a great episode. And we definitely didn't even attack that guy that bad. But I still felt like, oh, man, it maybe not have been the greatest look, but something needed to be said about that, and
that guy was just so hard because he's so confusing in general that like it was just hard for me to wrap my head about what even to say. I'm like, dude, this is word vomit.
That's because when Metzger starts going, he goes so fast that and he ties so many different conspiracies together
Yeah.
that he's like impossible to track, because he's like, do you know A, B, and C? And I'm going to tell you about A, B, and C as soon as I'm done telling you about how they relate to D, E, and F. But then he moves on to X, Y, and Z before he ever goes back to those.
And then you're like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's just, and dude, yeah, I mean, like, he's a great comedian, and I try to be as respectful as possible and like hype his stuff, and make sure people can find his links, and the good people that he does associate with that put out good shows and stuff that are entertaining at least. But yeah, then I just seen another clip, that I was telling you guys about, that he was on Skanks or something like that and was like going off about Illuminati secrets and this and that and the secret of the 33rd degree and this and that. I'm like, and he just ran it. All of his friends even kind of roast him on it. And it's just like so out of context that, yeah, I don't know. It just is such bad PR that it's just a bummer, It's just like, I don't know. There's not really much you can do about it. Kind of like internet trolls, it's like, there's nothing you can do about it. They're going to be there no matter what. So
just don't feed them. Just don't feed them. Let them get hungry. Yep.
Don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls.
So to pull us out of the conspiracy hodag hole, what would you say? So you've been a Mason for how long now?
8 years, I think.
8 years.
I think I'm going on my ninth.
So what would you say the Grand Lodge of Illinois is doing really well that you think other jurisdictions should know about?
I would say that membership and like kind of letting every lodge kind of experiments with their own ideas of what works for them, So I would say they do a lot of membership, a lot of leadership. I mean, our Grand Lodge, like podcast wise, has been fairly great for us. They've been very tolerable of us, and we haven't had too many anything really crazy. But I don't know, dude. Shoot, dude, it's so hard for me to even say something like that. Because I'm not sure like what other lodges around the state are doing or what like Grand Lodge is really implementing for them. I just know basically like our district deputy and what he's kind of implementing from Grand Lodge for us in our district. But, and mainly all of that is like working on membership, working on fellowship, uniting our district, trying to get brothers to connect and help out, so that it isn't the same 10 guys at every lodge. If you got another lodge 30 minutes, 3 or 4 of those guys can come over and pick up a role or help out. Or if some guy in your line, has a couple kids and you think he's going to be gone and you need somebody to fill, it's nice to have a roster of people from all the different lodges in our district who are willing to help and can help and knowing what their parts and stuff are. So right now, our main thing is just membership, uniting the districts, building ritual, and brotherhood amongst the district, dude. And then also like a newer thing to our district over the last 2 years, we recently opened up a high 12 club in our district. And we also have been trying to take the York Rite a little harder, like I know in my lodge before I joined the York Rite, there might've been 1 or 2 other guys from my lodge that were in the York Rite. And I think now there's probably 5 or 6 of us that are all in the York Rite bodies. So our district, we just gained 2 lodges, so I'm not necessarily sure on what DeKalb's status is on their York Rite, if they have one or not. But like I know Elburn, they probably don't. It's a pretty small town. But like I know in the old district, we were the 7th, now we're the 6th. We only had 1 lodge that had the York Rite and it had all 3 York Rite bodies in Aurora. So everybody from Sandwich, Plano, what else is around there? Sandwich, Plano, Shabana, Yorkville, and Aurora, and Oswego. We're quite a few lodges in that district. So all of us uniting together and like all trying to back the York Rite and its events, and then also backing up the other lodges, going to their fellowship nights or going to their chili cook-offs and their barbecues or outdoor degrees, any of those kind of things, dude, just to build travel, to unite brothers and to connect people throughout our area, because here in the Chicago suburbs, we're so connected that you could have 5 lodges from you in 40 minutes, so it's nice to pick a common place and try to get some of those brothers at a cigar lounge or get them out to a high 12 meeting at, a nice pub, family establishment. You can bring your friends, your family out and have some drinks. And, we usually bring out like a Masonic speaker or like a Masonic adjacent, like a charity organization or something. So, that's basically what I would say Illinois is trying to do really hard right now. I mean, we have our Premier Education Lodge, and they do a lot of great stuff. We have an amazing speaker coming to Illinois to speak from Joe from the Masonic Roundtable. He'll be the speaker there on Friday.
Ooh.
And then trying to think of what other kind of cool stuff we have. We have like a really cool lodge at the Valley of Chicago that meets there. We got a couple cool lodges that meet in the city. We got a bunch of cool stuff around the state. We kind of similar to you guys. We also have some far out country lodges too. That are in the far out state. So it's cool to go up there and kind of see how Freemasonry exists in those little pockets as well.
Absolutely. I think it's cool. Like, I always just like to hear what's going on, in these other districts, like what's getting people excited. For our listeners, what is the High 12? Just because we don't got it. And I don't think we got to address it at Cogmana because we were trying to get Mr. Worldwide on, but he avoided us.
Oh, man. Yeah. Mark knows. You got to get him on. He's a past international president. Mr. Worldwide. Yeah. Mr. International at this point. Yeah, dude. That dude's like, I don't know where he was just trying. I think he went to Scotland or England or he went somewhere pretty cool recently in the last year or whatever for High 12. So High 12 is a pretty old Masonic group. It used to be more of like a Tuesday lunch club kind of thing, They would meet at noon. It was a lot of like doctors, lawyers, businessmen, influential type people who were available to be off on a Tuesday at noon, that they could pop out of the office and hit a meeting real quick. And they'd usually meet up at like a premier restaurant or somewhere and have a really nice lunch. And they'd bring a speaker out and, have a little bit of entertainment as you're eating your lunch. Somebody would give a lecture about usually charity groups or something Masonic. It's all different kinds of stuff. But now the club is kind of changing its face a little bit, and it's kind of becoming more of like a front door for Freemasonry, because since it's a club, it's not like we don't have any like actual like secret ritual or secret handshakes or anything like that. It's completely open to the public, completely open to your friends and family. We meet in public places. It's a great organization. So there's some clubs that are doing like cigar bars and breweries, and they just travel and hit a different brewery every month, and you'll have your High 12 meeting. And instead of meeting at noon, they'll meet at 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon after work, and catch a cigar and have a quick meeting and have a lecture maybe, and move on. Here in our area we had, I think, 3 clubs, and then we've had a couple more add in fairly recently. Let me think. Okay, so the thing that sets High 12 off separately from like a lot of the other Masonic offshoots and clubs, every Masonic group has its charity, so High 12 has a fellowship that they participate with George Washington University in DC, and it's a super amazing program. And it's basically a master's program, and the school, we used to, but the school now like selects those people, and we financially kind of help them cover the fellowship, as long as George Washington University, they also back the student and have some other sponsors and stuff like that. But George Washington University is cool because it's always had like a Masonic dean, and the current dean, who's a female, she has some Masonic ties as well. Maybe she's not even the current dean. I'm not totally
current, maybe.
Up and up on, yeah. I'm not up and up on like 2026 information here on like who's at the school rep. I personally haven't even been to Washington to go to a tour yet. I know a bunch of the Illinois guys have done that, Mark and a few others, Mark Noakes, and they've said nothing but amazing things, and the school really appreciates it, and that Freemasonry runs in the history of the school. And I believe they have a lodge that meets there at the school, and like an alumni for the lodge. And I know like the fellowship program, we have like multiple generations of fellows who have gone through this program, and they all link up with each other, and kind of keep in contact for the most part. Some of them do, some of them don't, I'm sure. But every once in a while we have some of the people who are receiving the fellowships will come out to one of the international conferences or to a local club and give a speech just about what they're studying, what they're doing, where they're going. And I mean, dude, there's smart people, dude, who really can use our help. And if we can financially, you know, make a small dent in that great education and put somebody in a position where, you know, they're a leader for, you know, whatever field they're in. I know George Washington University just opened like a big medical branch and stuff. So, you know, there's all kinds of cool stuff going on there, man. Yeah, and you know, High 12 supports that, and it's slightly different than most bodies. You know, Grotto, we do the Humanitarian Foundation, and then Knights Templar has the Eye Foundation. You know, and everybody kind of has their own thing. You know, so it's a unique thing, and yeah, man, High 12 is awesome, dude. So interesting. It definitely needs to be the front door of Freemasonry.
Awesome.
Interesting. Didn't you talk to Mr. International about that? He told you he's gonna get you to start one in Wisconsin, Andrew.
Yeah, he was keen on it, but he didn't follow up, so I escaped. But
Yeah,
I'm not interested. Maybe
No,
someday.
I don't even know what that process is, because I know when we were at the Conference of Grand Masters, I talked to a few other states that High 12 isn't in, and I asked them why. And it's a lot about like club rules, because High 12 is technically a Masonic club. It's not like an independent body, so each Grand Lodge kind of has their own rules and regulations on clubs. So, you know, that's kind of where that sits.
Sure. Cool. Matt, you got any more questions for us?
No, I'm good. He's not a past master, so we can't ask him the question.
Yeah.
Brock, go sit in the East at some point here. Come on now.
Dude, I don't know if I ever will. Yeah, shoot. I think I'm going to do a second year as president of High 12. And yeah, I mean, I got some other positions I'm in that I'm working through. So I got plenty to do. Yeah.
Fair.
Awesome. Well, Brock, it's been a pleasure having you join us for some fellowship today. It was a hoot. I love hanging out with you. We're going to get Teddy Wedgers next time I see you.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you ever want to come up and
when Andrew goes through the Scottish Rite.
Yeah. And
Get out of the East. Yeah.
and if you and Wes or whoever else wants to come up and visit Lake, there's
We are.
a bed behind me that can become two beds, and they don't have to even be a queen size. They can be two twins, so you don't even have to sleep butt to butt. So yeah, come on down and come pay us a visit.
Dude, yeah, I gotta come. I have to, man. Especially while you're master. I'm like, man, I just wanted to show up when you very first were gonna go through the meeting, and I heard, and I was waiting for the vote, and then you guys did the show, and you didn't even talk about it, and I'm like, oh, dude, how did the vote come out? Is he master yet? Like, what happened? You guys waited like a week to put the news out.
Like you ate your toes.
We gotta keep people coming back somehow, Brock.
Yeah. I just wanted to show up. I'm like, I'm gonna just be there.
That'd be so funny. I'd be like, what?
That would be great.
Awesome. You gonna set us
Dude,
off,
we
Matt?
didn't talk about the Valley of Madison.
Oh yeah.
The Valley of Madison.
We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back again, Brock. We'll talk more.
We'll
about
do that in the fall when I finally join, and then we can do another episode.
Yeah.
Maybe
There we
from
go.
the valley.
Perfect. Ooh, that would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for Brock. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. To our listeners, thank you for all the support and listening. And as usual, make sure to follow us on all of our socials, rate and subscribe to the podcast. And if you want to get a hold of us via email, Andrew.
timeforfellowship@gmail.com. And if you want to join us to post episodes for some fun hangouts where I try to edit while listening to 50 people asking me questions, you can always join us on our Discord. Link is in the show notes, and I'll be going on there. Well, you won't know today, but I'll be going on there in like 5 minutes. So it happens right after the episode. So something to look forward to.
Time for Fellowship Unplugged.
Time for Fellowship. Or no, just Fellowship Unplugged.
Fellowship Unplugged.
It's like the Shack.
I know, but it's hard because I wasn't trying to say it's time for. I was trying to say, or I wasn't trying to use the whole title. I was saying it's time for Fellowship Unplugged.
Oh, the capital letters. We can't see them in your voice. I see.
Right.
Got it.
Yes.
All right. I'm getting out of here.
All right.
Love you all.
Have a good day,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Catch you later. Bye.